New York, a city filled with skyscrapers, but among them all, one stands out. A massive building with no windows, designed to withstand a nuclear explosion, and where filming inside is strictly prohibited. A building that looks like a villain's hideout, and as life imitates art, it was used for mass surveillance, monitoring phone calls, internet data, and even satellite transmissions. And all of this right in the heart of New York. At night, it stands out from the surrounding buildings by remaining completely dark. But what's its story, and what secrets are hidden inside? In 1969, the execution of Project X began, the construction of this building, which was completed in 1974. It was designed by architect John Warnecke in the brutalist architectural style, with exposed concrete. The exterior walls are made of precast concrete panels, clad with flame-treated Swedish granite, to achieve a more rustic texture and enhanced durability. I think the building's really cool. The architecture blends well with the surroundings. Look at this data center over here, which is nearby. What a boring building. Some people just lack creativity. Look at this one. It looks like a brick standing upright. These others here too. They spend a fortune and come up with this. It's something that's going to be here for at least 100 years. This building is huge, but it only has 29 floors. Look at that building next to it, which is a bit shorter. It's a luxury apartment building, so they are larger than usual. It has 52 floors. But in this windowless building, each floor is 20 feet high, 6 meters, almost double that of a conventional building. This was to accommodate the equipment of the time, which were huge, in addition to being heavy, which is why the floors are extremely reinforced. They also have many more columns than a conventional building, supporting a much greater structural load. The floor can withstand 300-pound force per square foot, which is 6 times what is needed for an office building, and 3 times what is needed for a room with computers nowadays, such as a data center. It has 6 external columns that give it a castle-like appearance, which was indeed the architect's intention. These columns are used for elevators, staircases, plumbing, and smoke exhaust. And those large openings on the 10th and 29th floors are for ventilation. But not all of them. On one side of the building, the openings at the top were for horn antennas, which were used in the past to direct signals in a beam over long distances between cities. These antennas needed a direct line of sight to the other antenna receiving the signal. About 70% of long-distance calls were made this way. That was before optical fiber. AT&T, for example, only started using fiber around 1976 to 77, and that was experimental. Fiber optics really started to take off only in the 1980s. Even so, those antennas were improved and continued to be used for quite some time. One of their advantages over parabolic antennas is that they emit and receive very little radiation from directions outside their main beam axis. So multiple antennas operating at the same frequency can be placed close to each other without interference. This building was commissioned by and still belongs to the telecommunications giant AT&T. It was built to host the world's largest long-distance call routing center, handling not only interstate calls but also international ones. When someone made a call, it would first go to a telephone exchange, which would connect via cables or antennas to another exchange, eventually reaching the recipient. Each exchange would switch and send the call to the next one until it reached the final person. If a direct route was overloaded, the call could be rerouted through another state.
Reconfiguring the network also plays a significant role on special calling days like Christmas and Mother's Day, days when almost everybody wants to use the network at the same time.
Communication with other countries was, and still is, done via submarine cables and satellites, though now it's mostly through fiber optics. In addition to telephone traffic, various other forms of data, such as computer data, also passed through this building, and continue to do so today. When the building was constructed, AT&T was already transitioning to a computer-controlled electronic switching system. The equipment needed a large, well-cooled space. Additionally, the building had to be highly secure, given its strategic importance, not only against malicious individuals, but more importantly, against natural disasters like hurricanes, and in extreme cases, even a nuclear attack. It was the Cold War era. According to AT&T documents, the building was required to have enough supplies for 2 weeks in the event of a nuclear attack.
The radiation rate, or the intensity from fallout, decreases with the passage of time. In fact, for every 7-fold increase in time, the radiation will be reduced by a factor of 10. That means that at 7 hours after the explosion, the radiation level will be about 10% of its intensity at 1 hour. At 49 hours, it will be about 1%. Within 2 weeks, the radiation rate can be expected to decay to about 1/10 of 1%. That is why you may need to remain within a sheltered area for as long as 2 weeks.
Specifically, it would have food and water to support 1,500 people, along with batteries and fuel for the generators. In such a moment, it's crucial for the country to keep the communication system running. The only way to withstand a nuclear explosion would be to have no windows, and equipment doesn't need a good view. Neither do the IT guys. As long as they have a monitor, they're good. Another very important point is that without windows, the sun doesn't heat up the interior, making it easier to keep the machines cool. According to the blueprints, the building has 3 underground levels, as well as a room for telecommunication cables, which would connect with others through tunnels beneath the streets. A retired AT&T engineer who worked in the building between 1981 and 1990 said that during the night shift he was practically alone, walking between rows of equipment with only a few fluorescent lights on. What a cool job, just the guy and the machines. As the equipment was modernized, a lot of space in the building was freed up. Part of it was used to install data centers, which are essentially rooms filled with computers and equipment for data storage and processing. But the remaining freed up space was used for something else. The US National Security Agency, the NSA, approached AT&T and said, "Yeah, a significant portion of the country's data flows through here. If you could find a place for us."
That would be great.
So basically, if you called your girlfriend, it was you, her, and the NSA agent in the conversation.
Who's there?
Imagine how much data the government can monitor now with social media, search engines, and computer and phone operating systems. Nowadays, they even buy this data from private companies. The NSA's PRISM program is an example. At the time it was exposed, it already involved companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and Apple.
PRISM is a secret government program that allows the National Security Agency to tap into the databanks of internet companies in search of foreign terrorists.
And nowadays, the question isn't how many hours a day you spend connected, but whether you ever disconnect at all. Back to the building, besides traditional telephony, they can also monitor satellite transmissions with those antennas and internet traffic. It might sound like something out of a movie, but Edward Snowden became famous precisely for leaking documents in 2013 that revealed various NSA surveillance systems. Some documents mentioned a place called TITANPOINTE, but they didn't explicitly disclose its location. But in 2016, The Intercept released a documentary following extensive research in which they identified TITANPOINTE as this building. Their analysis was based on documents leaked by Snowden, as well as other records such as blueprints and interviews with former AT&T employees. Some documents mentioned that TITANPOINTE was located in New York. Another noted that to reach the location, it was easier to first go to the FBI office in New York, which is on the next block, on the 23rd floor. Another document indicated that TITANPOINTE was managed by Lithium, now known to be the code name used by the NSA to refer to AT&T. And finally, some documents mentioned that TITANPOINTE was involved in intercepting communications between foreign satellites as part of the NSA's Skid Row program. The only AT&T location in New York capable of doing this is in this building. It's the only one with federal authorization for it, and you can see the antennas on the roof. The NSA also instructed that when agents went to the building, especially when bringing equipment, they should coordinate with the FBI to obtain a disguised vehicle and avoid wearing clothing with NSA insignia. Additionally, there were several other indications, such as references to equipment that was reportedly used exclusively at that AT&T facility, according to former employees. In 2008, AT&T even sued the NSA and other government agencies for being compelled to spy on its users. Take a look at this leaked document. There is TITANPOINTE, and there is the NSA's straw, sucking up the information. According to leaked reports, this building served as the hub for the NSA's BLARNEY program, which was used to spy on US citizens, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and at least 38 countries, including allies such as France, Germany, and Japan. And they weren't just after terrorists, but also economic advantages, among other things. This information was then included in the president's daily briefing, a summary delivered directly to him. And that's the story of this windowless building, located in the heart of New York City and designed to withstand a nuclear explosion. Since the 1970s, a significant portion of US communications has passed through this site, which, for that very reason, has become embroiled in alleged cases of mass surveillance. Thank you for your company, and until next time.